Madhvi, please start.
Yes. A very good morning to all the dignitaries, teachers, and dear participants. I welcome you all on the 8th day National Online Certificate Course in Shakespearean Studies, jointly organized by Shakespeare Society of Central India, Manohar Rao Kamri College, HISLOP College, SANTAJI Mahavidyalaya, and RAJKUMAR RAMANI Kanya Mahavidyalaya. At the same time, PATEL College, BHANDARA. It is to celebrate William Shakespeare's birth anniversary. Since last few days, we have been enjoying various nuances of Shakespearean literature unveiled by resourceful resource persons. Today we have among us Dr. Kartik Panikar as a subject expert. Let me take this opportunity to introduce today's resource person, Dr. Panikar, to the delegates. Sir is working as Head Department of English at Patel College, Bhandara. With 26 years of teaching experience, he is working as an IQSC coordinator for his institution too. Chairperson of Board of Studies in Languages of Science faculty, Dr. Panikar has to his credit 20 research papers and 8 edited books. He has worked as a member of Curricular Design Committee for UG courses. It is a proud privilege to welcome you, sir. Sir will deliberate on King Lear and worldly wisdom. I request you to Dr. Panikar to conduct the session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Madhavi Morel, for your kind introduction. At the very outset, let me thank the Shakespeare Society of Central India, who have collaborated with 5 colleges: Manohar Rao Kamri College, Nagpur; HISLOP College, Nagpur; SANTAJI Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur; RAJKUMAR RAMANI Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur; and my college, J.M. Patel Arts, Commerce and Science College, Bhandara, for organizing this national online 8-day certificate course in Shakespeare Studies. It has been a wonderful journey, and I must thank our chief organizers for thinking of this certificate course. I mean, of course, we are into good times now. We could have organized it offline, but then collaborating with so many institutions, getting resource persons, getting resource persons from different parts of the country, so wonderful resource persons would have been possible in the online mode only. So I must thank Honorable Dr. Pranoti Chakraborty, Secretary Dr. Usha Sakure, the principals, the very respected principals of the collaborating institutions, Dr. Prashant Sherke, Dr. Priya Vanjari, Dr. Urmila Dabir, my principal, Dr. Vikas Domne sir, my co-coordinators, Dr. Veena Joseph, Dr. Nihal Sheikh, and Dr. Madhavi Morel. It has been a wonderful journey, as I said earlier, and we have had some wonderful resource persons talking on different aspects of Shakespearean literature. Today, I will be trying to deal with a tragedy by Shakespeare, King Lear. It's one of the 4 so-called 4 great tragedies of Shakespeare, the others being Othello, Hamlet, Macbeth. But my focus more would be on King Lear. And as I say this, I would like to put in place a rider that it would be very difficult for me to match up to the journey that we have had with wonderful resource persons. I'll try my level best to make sense out of the assignment that I have undertaken. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Is the screen visible to all?
Not yet. It is still processing, I think. Yes. Yes, it is visible.
Is this because I have made it full screen?
Yes, it is visible.
visible? Is it visible to all? It is visible. Okay.
Yes, it is
Just a
visible.
minute. Okay. Just a minute.
It has gone now.
Yeah.
Yes, it is
Is it
visible.
there now?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So the play, I have structured my lecture in two parts. One, I'll quickly run through the summary of the text, because I have been told there are some UG students as well, and some PG students who may not have gone through the text, may not be familiar with the text. So I'll quickly go through the text, and then we'll come to the takeaways, the wisdom that is there in the play, that the play offers, in fact. Now, the play, as I said earlier, is a tragedy based on the mythological King Lear. In some places, it is spelled as Leir also, the King Lear of Britain. The play was originally published in quarto edition in 1608, and that was based on Shakespeare's unrevised working papers. The play, of course, was performed for the first time somewhere around 1606. The text of the first folio, of 1623, differs markedly from the quarto edition. So we have a slightly different version in the quarto edition. Now, let us go through the important characters. The most important character, of course, is Lear, the protagonist of the play. King of Britain is the King of Britain. He has three daughters: Goneril, Regan, and Cordelia. Goneril and Regan are married. I mean, when the play starts, we know that they are married. Goneril is married to the Duke of Albany, Regan to the Duke of Cornwall. And then we have a situation where the King of France and the Duke of Burgundy have come as suitors to marry Cordelia. Then we have the Earl of Kent, who is supposed to be a trusted advisor to King Lear. The Earl of Gloucester, he has two sons: Edgar, the legitimate son, and a bastard son, Edmund. Then we have a very important character, Fool, whose whose title may be Fool, but who is full of worldly wisdom, and who, though makes us laugh, but tells us gives us some very practical advice about life, and not only to us but also to King Lear. Then we have a minor character in Oswald. Uh, Let us see how the play unfolds. As the play begins, we are informed that King Lear is an old man, and he has already decided to divide his kingdom between his three daughters. Uh, he in fact has a map on which he has divided his kingdom into three equal parts, and the division is so well done on paper, at least, that nobody can say that somebody has been preferred, somebody has been given a preferential treatment. I mean, it has been very equally divided among all the three daughters on paper. But then King Lear, despite making all these divisions ready, comes up with a very strange condition. He wants all his three daughters to tell him how much they love him. and and he tells them that the division will be given to them, the share will be given to them on the basis of the quality of the declaration of their love for him. Now, Goneril and Regan are able to flatter their father. They flatter him like anything. King Lear is very happy, and he gives them the promised share. But then, when it comes to Cordelia, the youngest of the three sisters, she's not able to express herself. She says nothing, in fact. She doesn't know how to express her deep love for her father. Deep love for her father in words, in terms of words. And that is what makes it very difficult for Cordelia. And then when King Lear asks her to speak, she says, "Nothing, my lord, I don't have anything to say." And this, in a way, infuriates King Lear. He's very angry because the elder sisters have flattered him like anything. They have told him they love him like anything. But now here, Cordelia is not able to say anything. And Lear asks her once again, you don't have anything to say, nothing to say. Cordelia says nothing. And all of a sudden, King Lear says, nothing will come of nothing. If you have nothing to say, you'll not get anything. You'll get nothing. Speak again. He gives her another chance. Now, what is Cordelia's response? She tells her father that I cannot heave my heart into my mouth. I love your majesty according to my bond between father and daughter, no more nor less. But this is something that King Lear doesn't like. He is not ready to accept this kind of an answer, because he has been flattered by the elder sisters. Now Cordelia just giving him a flat reply that she loves him just like any other daughter would love a father. That is not something he is going to take it. Now, King Lear, though he loves Cordelia very much, is hurt by the way Cordelia expresses her love for him. He gets so angry, gets so infuriated that he immediately disowns her. Not only disowns her, but also banishes her from the kingdom. Now, remember, all this is happening even as we have the Duke of Burgundy and the King of France who have come here as suitors in front of them, and all this is happening. Now, the Earl of Kent tries to reason King Lear, but then he is not ready to take it. He, in fact, doesn't like Earl of Kent taking Cordelia's side. So he immediately banishes him also. And then it comes, now we have a situation where Cordelia is almost dowerless. She has been disowned by King Lear. She has been banished from the kingdom. And now King Lear tells the suitors, the Duke of Burgundy first, that now she is dowerless. If you want to take her, you can take her. Otherwise, you can leave her. King of Burgundy, in the changed circumstances, decides to reject her. But then the King of France appreciates her honesty, appreciates her straightforward manner, and takes her as his wife. And once that is done, King Lear divides his kingdom into two parts, two halves, in fact, one given to Goneril and the other given to Regan. Now, after this division is done, it is agreed that King Lear, I mean, he has no powers now as such. He will be a symbolic king, a king without powers, king without any property with him, any share of the kingdom with him. All his kingdom is divided into two parts, one given to Goneril and the other given to Regan. Now, in such a situation, it is decided that King Lear would be staying with his daughters in turn. Month by month, he would be staying with his daughters, and that is something that is not written down on any document. It is orally agreed that he would be staying with them, and it would be the duty of the daughters to take care of King Lear as well as his retinue. Okay, so he is supposed to have some 100 people with him. Now, there is a subplot in this story, a subplot that is very well connected with the main plot of King Lear. We have the Earl of Gloucester, as I had told you. He has two sons, one who is an illegitimate son, Edmund, and Edgar, who is his legitimate son. Now, Edmund is hurt, or he feels that he may not get the rightful recognition as the son of the Earl of Gloucester, or he may not be the rightful heir to the property of his father. So he decides to get his rightful share by playing a mischief. He manages to drive a wedge between the Earl of Gloucester and Edgar. He creates a misunderstanding between them, and as a result, Edgar has to escape from the place. He tells Edmund tells Edgar that his life is in danger and he should be fleeing from the place. Otherwise, he might get killed. And poor Edgar, he doesn't wait to get it confirmed or clarified from his father. He simply escapes and he takes the disguise of a bedlam beggar. Okay, so we have a plot and then we have a subplot. Now, the real action begins after Lear goes to spend his first month with Goneril. Now remember, now he is only a symbolic monarch, a symbolic king, no powers as such with him. All powers have been decentralized, given to both his daughters, and no property as such with him. And he goes to spend his first month with Goneril. Now, as soon as he starts staying there, in a couple of days he starts having problems. There are all kinds of problems, and Goneril is absolutely fed up with Lear and his companions. Remember, King Lear is also a little whimsical person, and then he has his retinue of 100 people with him. And Goneril is absolutely fed up with the behavior of King Lear and his companions. She is not in a mood to tolerate it any further. And as a result, King Lear decides to go to Regan. He tells Goneril that you have forgotten the fact that I have another daughter, I can go to her. And he goes to Regan. But when he goes to Regan's place, he is in for a greater shock. he is told that both Regan, and Cornwall have gone out to visit Gloucester, and they have done it very deliberately. As soon as they come to know that King Lear is going to come and stay with them, they immediately head to visit the Earl of Gloucester. Now, King Lear follows them, and when they arrive at Gloucester's house, he is not welcomed the way he should be welcomed, or he was expecting to be welcomed. And both Regan and Cornwall, they refuse to meet him. It is only when he throws tantrums, when he gets angry, that they come down to meet him. And he is in for even greater shock when Regan tells him that she cannot accommodate him. She is already in somebody else's place, and there is no way she can accommodate him. She can in no way accommodate him and his followers. Now, this is a situation when, for the first time, Lear realizes that he has made a big mistake by rejecting Cordelia, by disowning Cordelia, by banishing Cordelia, because he knows that Cordelia would not have conducted herself in the manner both these sisters have been conducting. So it is for the first time that he realizes that there is no way he can put up with these sisters, and both these sisters are they work in collaboration, and they both have decided that they would not tolerate any of the tantrums of King Lear. And despite Gloucester's request, both these sisters do not allow him to stay. And Gloucester tries to convince them that there is a storm that is building up outside. It's going to be very tough out there, and it would be not proper to send King Lear out in such a situation. But then, these sisters show no mercy, and he is literally pushed out. Remember, a king who has all his life stayed in luxury, who has had n number of servants at his beck and call, now all of a sudden finds himself shelterless, absolutely no roof over his head, no place to stay. And then in the middle of a storm, he has to face the storm without even a tree nearby. He almost goes mad. There is a storm. This storm outside is actually, we can say, is a manifest of the storm that is building inside King Lear. He is all alone with his fool. The fool tries to console him. The fool tries to tell him, point out his mistakes, but then now there is nothing that much that can be done. So after lot of efforts by Kent, Kent is able to locate King Lear and fool. And remember, King Lear had to spend a night out there in the open, a stormy night with rain, thunder, lightning, and this is one of the most horrible nights that some people say that they have ever seen. Now, Kent himself says that I have never seen such a horrible night. And it is in such a horrible night that we have a king who is no more a king, but a king, a man who has always lived like a king, lived in the luxury of his palace, lived a very comfortable life, he is out there in the storm, facing the vagaries of nature, facing the fury of nature, but there is no other way out, in fact. And I mean, he is almost mad. I mean, when he faces that storm, it is. I mean, they are left to fend for themselves. Kent somehow manages to, locate them, and then Gloucester comes and takes them into a hut for a shelter. But then, remember, Gloucester is later on punished for this. Now, in the meanwhile, we have these two sisters who are courting Edmund. Remember, Edmund is the bastard son of Gloucester, and Edmund wants that all the property of his father should come to him. He decides to take the most, make the most of the opportunity that has come his way. He decides to tell Cornwall that his father has been in touch with France, and he has King of France, and has also helped King Lear. Now that is something that they don't like, you know. And when Gloucester comes back, he is punished, and is punished brutally. Regan, in fact, plucks out his eyes and is thrown out, and all this happens in front of Edmund. You know, he cries for help, but then there is no help coming for him. So Gloucester also suffers a lot, just as King Lear suffers. Gloucester also suffers a lot. Now, Kent somehow comes to his help. I mean, he is, of course, he is also in disguise. I mean, look at King Lear. I mean, he may be a rash person, a rash human being, but then he has some people who do not leave him. Look at Gloucester. He is ready to risk his life for King Lear. We have Kent, who has been banished, but then he comes back to help King Lear. He stays with him in disguise, and he helps King Lear to be reunited with Cordelia. He arranges for the for King Lear to be taken to taken to the camp where Cordelia, or in fact King France's army has landed. Now, Cordelia, of course, wants to take revenge for the treatment meted out to her father by her sisters. Now, in the meanwhile, we have Gloucester also getting reunited with Edgar, and then Gloucester, like King Lear, realizing that he had done a big mistake by trusting Edmund, and he should have trusted Edgar more. It is after getting reunited with Gloucester, after getting reunited with Edgar, Gloucester dies. Now we have a situation where the king of France's army has come, and it is in face to face with the army of Cordelia and with the army of Regan and Goneril. Now, in this war, of course, unfortunately, the army led by the Duke of Albany and Edmund. Remember, Edmund has the office now, and the army of Cordelia, the army of King of France, is defeated, and King Lear and Cordelia both are captured. They are both arrested. They are both taken prisoners. Okay. Now, in the meanwhile, we come to the last part of the tragedy, because both Goneril and Regan are having an affair with Edmund. When Goneril comes to know of it, she poisons Regan because she wants to be with Edmund. Uh, uh, Edgar challenges Edmund to a duel and wounds him mortally. Now, Edgar initially doesn't realize that this man in disguise is actually Edgar. When there is a duel, Edgar wounds him mortally, and Edmund is critically injured. In the meanwhile, Goneril, when she realizes that the truth of her affair, the affair has come to the knowledge of her husband, she kills herself. And before dying, Edmund confesses his misdeeds and also tells them that he had ordered for the hanging of Cordelia. Uh, he is convinced to issue orders for the release of Cordelia. He gives a sword, his own sword, to be taken to the hangman so that the hanging could be stopped. But by then, it is too late. By the time they reach there, Cordelia is already hanged, and we have a last scene, where Lear is carrying the body of his beloved youngest daughter in his arms, and he cannot bear this shock, and he too dies. So that, in short, is the story of the tragedy of King Lear. Now we come to the takeaways, the wisdom that is there in this play. Now, before going on to look at the takeaways from the story, takeaway from the play, let us find out whether the characters of the play are the characters that we are likely to come across in our society. So for this, I'll take the help of Samuel Johnson, who in his preface has written a lot about Shakespeare the dramatist. I'll read some of the lines that Samuel Johnson has written about Shakespeare in the preface to Shakespeare. He says, if we have to think of worldly wisdom, if we have to think of the takeaways, we must first realize that these characters should be characters that we may likely come across in our society, in the society, in the in the society we live, the people around us. So, in as a kind of a tribute to Shakespeare, Samuel Johnson says that Shakespeare is above all a poet of nature, the poet that holds up to his readers a faithful mirror of manners and of life. His characters are not modified by customs of particular places. They are not affected by customs of particular places. They are customs unpracticed by the rest of the world, by the peculiarities of studies or professions, which can operate but upon small numbers, or by accidents of transient fashions or temporary opinions. This is important, they are the genuine progeny of common humanity. They are like people, you and me, flesh and blood. They are people such as the world will always supply. People will always come across in this world, and observation will always find such people. So we have characters who are not ideal, who are not fictitious, who are not imaginary, but characters whom we may come across in our society, who may come across in our day-to-day life. Now, his persons, his characters act and speak by the influence of those general passions and principles by which all minds are agitated, and the whole system of life is continued in motion. See, all his characters are influenced by those general passions and principles which influence us, which guide us, which affect us. And therefore, in the writings of other poets, a character is too often an individual, but in the case of Shakespeare, it is commonly a species. His characters represent a species. They are representative of a species, a type. And the third and maybe the last quote from Samuel Johnson, his he fills his place with practical axioms and domestic wisdom. These are not characters speaking ideal dialogues which we may not come across in our day-to-day affairs. These are people of flesh and blood. These are characters whom we can easily identify with. The scenes that we come across in his plays are scenes from which a hermit may estimate the transactions of a world. I mean, this is the greatest tribute that one can pay to Shakespeare. If we have to relate Shakespeare's characters to life, then Samuel Johnson says the scenes from which the scenes that we come across in Shakespeare's plays are the scenes from which a hermit may estimate the transactions of the world, and a confessor predict the progress of the passions. So these are scenes, these are situations from which even a hermit can get a fair idea of the transactions of the world, of the way the world operates, the way the society operates, humanity operates. And these are scenes from which even a confessor, a saintly person, can predict the progress of passions. Now, let us look at the takeaways. Let us see what is there for us in the play. The first takeaway would be: know yourself, behave sensibly, or rather act sensibly. When you are in a position, you need to understand what you are, who you are, and then act accordingly, behave sensibly, act sensibly. The most important advice, the most important takeaway would be: don't ever be a leer. Keep some part of the wealth for yourself. Don't give it to your children, don't give it to others. Keep something for yourself, for the simple reason that money may not be everything, but remember, it is important. And there is a famous quote by Warren Buffett. I'm sorry. He says, money is not everything, but make sure that you earn a lot before speaking such nonsense. There are many people who say, oh, money is not everything, but then remember that if you have to lead a life, a good life, even a decent life, then you need money. And the fool, in a way, passes on this advice to King Lear, but it is too late when he passes on this advice. Fool, tells, Lear, he's a kind of a conscience keeper of King Lear. He says, fathers that wear rags do make their children blind, but fathers who have bags, that bear bags, shall see that their children are kind to them. Fortune that errant wore never turns the key to the poor. So remember that you must have some wealth with you, especially during the last part of your life, when you are dependent on others, when you need somebody to take care of you. So if you give all your wealth to your children, to your relatives, if you just simply give it to them and you don't have money with you, it would be very difficult. It would be, and this is, I'll give you a present day example towards the end of the presentation. Today, in today's world also, we have people like King Lear, who make this mistake and then suffer a lot on account of that. So I mean, the fool tells him that, you were valuable to your kids as long as you had bags, as long as you had wealth, as long as you had the property with you, as long as you had the kingdom under your control. But now, I mean, why should anybody care for you? Now you have to look at their face. Now you have to look at their moods and then talk to them. So, I mean, you have brought this situation upon yourself. You have brought this situation where you have given everything to your daughters and you have nothing left with you. I mean, he had the option, you see, he had the option of dividing. In fact, he had divided the kingdom into three parts, three equal parts for that matter. But then all of a sudden, he comes up with an idea, a fantastic idea, that they should be professing their love to him. They should be expressing their love to him. And the youngest, who cannot express, is, I mean, simply disowned. I mean, he is so infuriated that he even banishes her. Disowning your own child, and this when King Lear knows that Cordelia is the one who loves him the most, Despite this, he does it. So, in a way, he actually is inviting trouble for himself, And look at this dialogue by King Lear. It is pretty late that he realizes that he is old now. I mean, he's telling Regan, "Dear daughter," in fact, he is kneeling almost in front of her and says, "Dear daughter, I confess that I am old. Age is unnecessary, and on my knees I beg that you shall vouchsafe me raiment, bed, and food." So he is almost, I mean, a king is begging his daughter to provide him shelter, food, and bed. Can you imagine a man who had everything? He is now begging for raiment, bed, and food, and on his knees, And the way, I mean, because I had to run through the plot, I mean, some of those dialogues that he speaks are, something that, I mean, we cannot imagine a king, a person who was a king at some point of time, speaking such kind of sentences. So helpless he finds. Once he has given everything to his daughters, he finds himself helpless. I mean, there is nothing, no document whereby he can force them to do anything for him. And remember, I mean, these daughters have, in fact, these daughters push him out into the storm, and it was such a horrible experience that, I mean, in that real, I mean, storm that he had to face. With no roof over his head, a king undergoing that kind of a situation. And the fool again tells him, "Thou was a pretty fellow when thou hadst no need to care for her frowning." Now is the time when he has to take care while talking to his own daughters. So the fool tells him, "Thou was a pretty fellow. You are such a, such a powerful fellow, and there was a time when there was no need for you to look at their frowning, look at their mood, and then talk to them. But now the situation has changed. He is almost powerless. No property with him, no wealth with him, no money with him. Now, fool says, now thou art a zero without a figure. You are a big zero. A big zero, nothing more than a big zero. He says, I am better than thou art now. The fool tells King Lear that I am better than thou art now. I am at least a fool. Thou art nothing. You are nothing. Remember that, dialogue from where it all started. Nothing will come out of nothing. And here we have the fool telling him, you are nothing. I am at least a fool. I have that privilege of being called a fool. You are nothing. You are no longer the king. Okay. The second takeaway is karma catches up. As you sow, so you reap. Look at yes. What happens to King Lear? Look at what happens to King Lear, the Earl of Gloucester, Edmund, Goneril, and Regan. They all have to they all have to pay for their mistakes. They all have to pay for their mistakes. Lear, of course, pays for his mistake and pays for his mistake dearly. The Earl of Gloucester pays with his life. His mistake was that he trusted his illegitimate son Edmund more than his legitimate son Edgar. And both, we can say, Lear and Earl of Gloucester, they did not have good judgment for that matter. Edmund, Goneril, and Regan, they pay for their sins. They also pay for their sins. We have Goneril and Regan, they are into an affair with Edmund, and they both are jealous of each other, and as a result, they also have to suffer. They also they also pay for their sins, in fact. The last takeaway would be control your anger, because it is just one letter away from danger. Remember King Lear. He gets so angry that he has no control over himself. When Cordelia tells him that she loves him just as a daughter should love her father, King Lear simply cannot take that answer. He flies in rage. He is angry. And in that anger, even he doesn't know what he is doing. Everything happens pretty fast. It is said that anger is a feeling that makes your mouth work faster than your mind. And that is exactly what happens with King Lear. When Cordelia is not able to pamper his ego, she's not able to flatter him, he simply disowns her. Simply disowns her. Not only he disowns her, but then he banishes her. And he does everything possible to ensure that nobody takes her away. Nobody, takes her in, for that matter. If you look at those lines where he tells the Duke of Burgundy as to how she is now out of favor. It's very difficult to accept that a father telling this kind of things about his own daughter to a person who has come as a suitor. And King Lear does all this because of his violent temper. He doesn't. He is in no way in control of his anger. He simply doesn't listen even to the Earl of Kent. The Earl of Kent tries to reason him, but then he is not ready to take those explanations. So it is because of this anger that we may get into situations from where it is difficult to get out, from where it is difficult to escape. So these are, according to me, the three important takeaways. And then there is one beautiful uh, dialogue of a fool where he gives us some worldly wisdom. Uh, he says, market uncle, is saying to King Lear, have more than thou showest. I mean, this is a lot of things that he is speaking about. Have more than thou showest, speak less than thou knowest, lend less than thou owest. Look at the wisdom. I mean, we call him a fool, but look at the wisdom he is giving to the world. He's giving to his own king. Lend less than thou owest, ride more than thou goest, learn more than thou trowest, set less than thou throwest, leave thy drink and thy whore, and keep in a door, and thou shalt have more than 2 tens to a score. So here we have the fool giving us some valuable tips for life, some very valuable tips that we can implement in our life. Now, as I was telling you earlier, I mean, with all this presentation, if you still think that we don't have people like King Lear, then I take you to the last slide. This is a piece of news that we had in all kinds of social media. In even TV channels carried this news. We have one of the richest industrialists in the country who was thrown out by his son after he gave him all the property. Now, you can see on your screen, this is Vijayapad Singhania, and the man who created this concept of complete man. I mean, the irony is that his autobiography is named as Incomplete Life. So we have people like King Lear even today. Vijayapad Singhania gave almost his entire stake in Raymond's to his son Gautam Hari Singhania, and he realized later on that was the biggest mistake of his life. So we have King Lear even in today's society. We have people like King Lear even in today's society, and therefore it is very important that we learn from the mistakes that King Lear made, that people in the play that we have come across made, the characters made, so that we don't repeat those mistakes. So I am sure that you will. There is more that is available on the net, on the YouTube as well, about Vijayapad Singhania. You can go and find out how this man, who lived a very lavish life, he was one of the pioneering aviators, in fact, for that matter, in India, and a man who, in fact, himself flew a plane. Now is living in a very small accommodation in Mumbai. So at least, I mean, he has an accommodation for himself, small accommodation for himself, but then it has been a great fall for him as well, his wife and his other relatives, because of his one decision. And I mean, there is a story that people tried to convince him also, like King Lear, people tried to convince him not to give everything to his son, but then he overruled all those suggestions and gave everything to his son, and this is his fate now. So we hope, I hope that we all have something to learn from the play. Some more takeaways could be there, of course. There is a lot that is open to interpretation, but this is my perspective, and I hope I've tried to do justice to the assignment that was given to us. I take this opportunity to thank all the team members who have worked to make this online certificate course a success. Now, I would be very happy to take questions from you and try my level best to answer them as well. Madhavi, are you there?
Yeah, sir. I'm
Madhavi,
waiting
please.
whether the students are interested in asking the questions. If the students have any question, I think the students are quite satisfied with the session, and that's why they don't have any question. Yeah, sir, very well said that we should learn a lot from the mistakes of King Lear. Yes, sir, it was really very interesting and resourceful session. Sir unveiled how King Lear relinquishes his power and land to his two daughters and repents at last. How Lear becomes destitute and insane and learns the fundamental lessons about the power of consent. Thank you so much, sir, for conducting a very insightful session. It was indeed a very interesting one. Thank you so much. On behalf of the host institution, I express sincere gratitude to you. It was the last session of 8 days course on Shakespearean studies. Hence, I express worthy words of gratitude to all who have directly or indirectly undertaken great efforts to make it happen. I express humble thankfulness to Dr. Pranoti Chakravarti ma'am, President of Shakespeare Society of Central India, Dr. Usha Sakure ma'am, Secretary, Shakespeare Society of Central India, who were the main pillars of this venture. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to the organizers of this course, Dr. Urmila Dabir, Principal RAJKUMAR KEWAL KANYA MAHAVIDYALAYA, Dr. Priya Vanjari, Principal SANTAJI MAHAVIDYALAYA NAGPUR, Dr. Vikas Domne, Principal JM PATEL College Bhandara, and Dr. Prashant Shelkeji, Principal HISLOP College Nagpur. All the resource persons played a very pivotal role to make this 8 days journey memorable and resourceful. They deserve they deserve sincere thankfulness. Dr. Supanta Bhattacharya, Dr. Subir Dhar, Dr. Shripad Bhatt, Dr. Madhu Krishnan, Dr. Kshama Chaudhary, Dr. Indrani, Dr. Dinesh Nair, and Dr. Kartik Pannikar. Each of the stalwart deserve great gratitude for their immensely unique session. Thank you so much, sir. A big thank you to the sincere gratitude to the course coordinators, Dr. Veena Joseph ma'am, Dr. Nihal Sheikh sir, Dr. Kartik Pannikar sir, for their continuous efforts to make this course a reality. A big thank you to the technical staff of this venture. Last but not least, all the participants from different colleges. You made this course a reality. You made success. You made the success a reality. Thank you to each and every one of you. If there are some instruction to the students, some instructions are there to the students, ma'am?
They have to
With the
fill the
permission-
feedback form. It is floated in the group. They have to fill the feedback form and then they'll get the certificates.
Okay. The students have to fill up the feedback form. After then only they will get the certificate. With the permission of the chair, I declare that the session is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Panikar sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Yeah, thank you. It was a nice
Thank you,
journey.
Madhavi. Yes.